Ever notice how some people seem wired differently? They wake up before dawn, crush a workout, work 10 hours straight, and still have energy left to build their side hustle at night. Meanwhile, you're hitting snooze for the third time, negotiating with yourself about whether today's the day you finally start. What separates them from you isn't genetics, it's not luck, and it sure as hell isn't those motivational videos you watch every Sunday and forget by Monday morning. The answer lies in ancient warrior technique that turned ordinary farmers into legendary fighters who faced death without flinching. And here's the kicker, it still works today, but almost nobody teaches you the real method. So what's the secret that transformed everyday people into unstoppable forces of nature? The birth of the iron mind in feudal Japan, between the 12th and 19th centuries. Samurai weren't just soldiers. They were living embodiments of absolute discipline. But here's what nobody tells you, of them weren't born that way. A young recruit entering samurai training went through something called shugyo, a brutal process of self-discipline that had nothing to do with motivation. Motivation was a luxury they couldn't afford. What existed was radical obedience to an internal code. While you wake up thinking, should I work out today? The samurai woke up and simply executed. No debate. No negotiation. The mind had no voting rights, and here's the trick they used. They practiced something called mushin, literally mind of no mind. It was the art of acting without thinking, executing without hesitation, eliminating the gap between intention and action. Sounds weird? It should, because your entire life you've been taught to think before you act. But the samurai knew that overthinking is the silent assassin of discipline. Today, you spend 5 minutes in bed negotiating with your brain. The samurai stood up the instant his eyes opened. There was no room for doubt, no margin for weakness. In 2019, a study from the University of Pennsylvania found that elite military operators use similar mental frameworks. They don't rely on willpower, they rely on protocol, on ritual, on automatic execution. The samurai figured this out centuries ago. The modern trap. Your brain is sabotaging you. Here's the brutal truth. Your mind is your greatest enemy. Research from Cornell University shows the average person makes about 35,000 decisions daily, and each decision drains your mental battery. Every yes or no consumes a piece of your willpower. That's why you're exhausted by PM without doing anything physically demanding. You've burned through your mental fuel deciding whether or not to do things. The samurai didn't have this problem. Because he didn't decide, he executed. Think about it. When you brush your teeth, do you stand there thinking, should I brush now or later? No, you just do it. It's automatic. It's a ritual so ingrained that your conscious mind doesn't even participate. The samurai turned everything into ritual. Waking, training, meditating, eating, fighting, dying. Everything was executed with the same mechanical precision. No drama, no hesitation, no space for the ego to interfere. And here's the irony. While you think freedom means choosing what to do every second, the samurai knew real freedom comes from not having to choose. A 2022 study from Stanford's Behavior Design Lab confirmed this. Researchers found that people who automate key decisions through rigid routines report 67% less decision fatigue and 43% higher goal completion rates. The samurai already knew this. They just called it something else. If you want to understand how to apply this to your life, hit that like button and subscribe, because what's coming next will completely change how you see discipline. Killing your will to unleash your action now. It get to the core of the technique. The samurai practiced something called kaizen no kokoro, the heart of continuous improvement. But this wasn't that corporate talk about one better each day. This was darker. It was the idea that you need to kill your will to free your action. Sounds heavy? Because it is. Look, your will is that voice saying, I don't feel like it right now. It's that sensation of resistance. It's the internal friction that paralyzes you. The samurai eliminated this through a process called shoshin, beginner's mind. He trained to approach every action as if it were the first time. No judgment, no comparison, no ego. Picture this. You're supposed to train, but your mind starts complaining. It's cold. I'm tired. I trained yesterday. The samurai cut that conversation at the root. He simply went. And here's the secret. The more you act without negotiating, the easier it becomes to act. It's like a muscle. At first, it hurts. Then it becomes second nature. One of the most legendary masters of Bushido, Miyamoto Musashi, said, "Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world." Translation: stop turning simple tasks into existential dramas. You need to train. Need to work. Need to wake up early? Wake up. There's no debate. There's no try. There's only execution. Navy SEALs use a similar principle called default aggressive. When in doubt, you don't freeze. You move. You act. You execute. The samurai were doing this when SEALs didn't even exist yet. The samurai system: ritual, repetition, and ego death. So how do you actually apply this? First, turn your actions into non-negotiable rituals. The samurai had raishiki, martial etiquette. Every movement was choreographed. Every gesture had meaning. There was no room for improvisation or seeing how I feel. You need to do the same. Take the 3 most important actions in your life, the ones that, if you do them every day, completely transform your reality and turn them into sacred rituals. Could be: wake at a.m., train for an hour, work on your goals for 2 hours. Now, here's the part nobody tells you. You don't negotiate with ritual. You don't ask, should I do this today? You just do it. Like a machine. Like a samurai. In 2023, behavioral psychologist Wendy Wood published research showing that 43% of daily actions are performed habitually, without conscious thought. High performers push that number to 70% or higher. They turn critical behaviors into autopilot. Second, use the technique of Ichigo Aiki: one time, one meeting. The samurai lived as if every moment was their last. Because, well, most of the time it was. They entered combat knowing they might die. So every action carried weight. Every decision was final. You need to approach your tasks with the same urgency. Not like you have infinite time, but like today is your only day. Third, eliminate meiwa hesitation. Hesitation kills. On the battlefield, the samurai who hesitated died. In your life, hesitation keeps you trapped in mediocrity. The samurai technique for eliminating hesitation is simple: immediate action. 3 seconds. You have 3 seconds between decision and execution. Go past that, your mind will sabotage you. Think about it. When you think, I'm going to work out, you have 3 seconds to stand up and go. If you rationalize, it's over. Your brain will build 10 excuses in 30 seconds. The samurai called this zanshin, relaxed alertness. You're present, but you're not thinking. You're ready to act, but you're not anxious. It's a state of serene readiness. Modern athletes call it being in the zone. The samurai just called it living. The modern return of the warrior code. Here's the fascinating part. This samurai technique is making a massive comeback. Not by accident, but because the modern world has turned us into mental zombies. Social media, notifications, infinite decisions, chronic anxiety. All of this destroys your ability to act with clarity. High-performance executives in Silicon Valley are rediscovering samurai practices. Tim Ferriss talks about it constantly. Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, basically lives the Bushido code. Ray Dalio meditates daily using samurai principles. Why? Because they figured out that discipline isn't about motivation. It's about eliminating internal resistance. And science is backing this up. Research in neuroscience shows that the more you automate behaviors, the less mental energy you spend. It's the concept of atomic habits that James Clear popularized. But the samurai were doing it 800 years ago. The difference is the samurai didn't need apps. They had something more powerful, an unshakable internal code. And here's what's funny. Technology was supposed to free us, but it imprisoned us. Because now, we have choice overload. And choice overload paralyzes. A 2021 study from Columbia University found that people with too many options experience 32% more anxiety and 27% less satisfaction with their final choice. The samurai solved this with radical simplicity: fewer choices, more action, less thinking, more execution, less drama, more results. Companies like Apple and Amazon operate on similar principles. Jeff Bezos famously said he makes very few decisions per day, but makes them count. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit daily to eliminate decision fatigue. They're channeling samurai wisdom whether they know it or not. So what now? Warrior or spectator? So here's the final question. Are you going to keep living in eternal internal negotiation, where every day is a battle against your own mind? Or are you going to adopt the samurai technique, eliminate hesitation, and transform discipline from a struggle into your identity? Because in the end, the difference between those who conquer and those who quit isn't talent. It's the ability to act without thinking, to execute without hesitating, to live as if every moment is a battle you cannot afford to lose. The samurai knew this, and they paid in blood to prove it. You don't need to die in battle, but you do need to kill your internal resistance. So tell me, are you ready to become relentless? Drop a comment below. And if this video changed something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because discipline isn't taught. Discipline is built, and it starts right now.